All right. Good morning, good afternoon to all of our participants who've joined us around the world for this webinar this morning. Today, I have with me Eric Parizo, Managing Principal Analyst for Omdia Cybersecurity. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Nikki. Great to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And also joining us is Yael Cinnamon, who is the Product Manager for Checkpoint XDR, XPR, and Playblocks. Welcome, Yael.
Thank you, Nikki. Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
It's great to have you guys both here with us today for this very interesting topic. Today, our webinar is about the CISO's Guide to TDIR Innovation with XDR, AI, and Automation. So obviously, we're all very excited to be living in this era where there's so many exciting new AI and automation technologies bursting on the scene. And as people responsible for cybersecurity of our various organizations, we know that these are can be very powerful and very helpful in our mission to keep them safe from cyber attack. But like any new technology and powerful technology, we need to really be careful and cautious and mindful about how we go about implementing them to make sure that we're getting the result we want and not maybe some unexpected and unfortunate outcomes. And also to make sure that we're just doing that in a very efficient manner and not going down wild goose chases and getting tripped up on with complicated implementations. So that's really the topic that we have here today. Eric will talk about his research and what his advice is for CISOs and security managers to implement these new technologies in TDIR. So without further ado, Eric, go ahead, take it away.
All right, sounds good. All right, I think everyone can see the slides. Once again, Eric Parizo, Managing Principal Analyst here with Omdia Cybersecurity. Thank you to Nikki and the entire Checkpoint team for the opportunity to be here with you today. We're going to talk about TDIR through the lens of innovation, and in particular, the opportunities that XDR can present to help organizations with their TDIR lifecycle. So there's really two parts to my talk today. The first part is going to be focusing on making the case for innovation in the TDIR lifecycle. And then the second piece is going to be the role that XDR can play in facilitating that innovation. So to open things up here again, if you've been around the cybersecurity industry for a little while, a lot of this is not going to be new to you. So sit tight. This is going to be a little bit more geared toward the folks who aren't living the day-to-day of cybersecurity. But to set the stage, detecting, investigating, and responding to cybersecurity threats is incredibly hard. It is a discipline in and of itself within cybersecurity, and it is an ongoing challenge for organizations large and small. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, but the reason that often gets talked about most, and for good reason, is the ongoing evolution of the threat landscape. It's always changing. There are always new threats emerging, new types, new spins on long-time threats. And it's a really hard challenge for organizations to keep up. I wanted to include some stats here just to provide some context here. So to open things up, the Verizon 2024 Data Breach Investigations Report was released a few weeks ago. It's one of the best annual reports to really get a sense of what's happening out there with data breach trends from year to year. And this isn't necessarily a new trend, but the latest way they spin this data is that the path in for adversaries into organizations 40% of the time for non-error / non-misuse breaches. So 2 out of every 5 breaches don't involve someone just, fat fingering the wrong key or are, a malicious insider, involve the use of valid credentials, meaning attackers are just going to somehow steal credentials from a valid user, log right in. And that's an incredibly hard attack technique to detect because for all intents and purposes, it often looks like a regular user. But really important to be aware that that's going on and understand from a TDIR standpoint how you can detect that rogue or misuse of credentials. Ransomware. Checkpoint recently released their 2024 cybersecurity report. A lot of great data points in there. They found 1 in 10 organizations last year were specifically targeted by ransomware. So not necessarily a drive-by, just wrong place, wrong time, but someone specifically went after them from an adversarial standpoint. So you extrapolate that over the course of a few years, and before you know it, it's pretty clear everyone at some point is going to be in the crosshairs of an adversary using ransomware. The Mandiant M Trends report, another really interesting report, and this one focuses on a stat we call dwell time, and that's the amount of time from when an adversary first gains access, inside access to the organization, from when they get in to the time when they're detected by that organization. And the average dwell time is going down. It's now about 10 days on average, but that's still a really long time. And often it's enough time for adversaries to do damage. Their red team, by comparison, often needed only 5 to 7 days to actually get in, get what they wanted, and get it out. So it goes to show that while we're getting better as an industry at dwell time, it still needs to go down significantly, and that needs to be a big focus of TDIR programs for sure. Then last point, Checkpoint found also that 5,000 cyber tech victims were publicly exploited last year, which is a 90% increase year over year. So that's just really to make the point here of how important TDIR is. It means if you have a TDIR failure, if someone gets in and breaches you, chances are more and more likely that the whole world is going to know about it. So it certainly underscores the need for making constant TDIR improvements. Then on the right side there, wanted to present a variety of different breaches that have happened over the past 10 years or so, and put it in a way you may not normally see, but it's the amount of dwell time. So again, the time that an attacker gets in from when they're discovered, and the impact of that breach. And there are a few specific takeaways I want you to have here as well. One is that often the dwell time is pretty long for attackers. Generally, for these long time breaches, they get in and they stay in for a long time because they're cautious. They'd rather stay in and take longer and not take the chance of getting detected. So what it means is, as much as we like to preach the idea of detecting in minutes or even hours, ideally, if you can detect an intrusion, even in like a day or two, a lot of times that will be good enough to prevent significant damage. Obviously, again, we want to detect as fast as possible, but realistic expectations are important here. Now, another point to make is that dwell time does not necessarily equal the impact cost. There are some breaches where the dwell time, like the Maersk breach, that was sort of a special case. But the dwell time there was only minutes before it was discovered, and the impact was still massive. Now, that said, the Equifax breach, the dwell time there was about average for a long duration event, but the impact, is in the close to the multiple billions of dollars point now. So all this means, if you're not there yet, the idea is if you cannot just allow the status quo in TDIR to continue, because it continues to mean events like this, week after week, month after month, year after year. So each organization, and this is one of the big themes I hope everyone takes away from this event today, everyone must seek out positive disruption via innovation when it comes to TDIR. Now, let's drill into that a little bit more, because what I want to make sure everyone understands is that Omdia is advocating for an innovation-led approach to TDIR. What does that mean? It means, as an organization, making the commitment to seek out, experiment with, and embrace new technologies, approaches, and skill sets to improve TDIR outcomes. Our research shows some key areas where innovation is needed. Reducing or eliminating data detection silos. We've seen this for years in TDIR, particularly with SIM-SOAR-based TDIR architectures, where you're bringing together all sorts of different data types from disparate data sources, and you want to make that a single, effectively a single data repository so that you can run effective detection mechanisms on it. Extremely hard thing to do. Furthermore, reducing and consolidating redundant threat detections. This is the noise problem. It's been here forever, and while I think as an industry we're making some progress, it's still one of the biggest problems we consistently hear from security analysts in the SOC. There's still just too much going on, too many events, too many different things that lack prioritization, not enough consolidation of related events. Lots of innovation still needed there. And then ensuring a quick, effective remediation response action following the investigation. Once you know what happened, why it happened, what to do about it, oftentimes it's still such a heavy lift to get to the point where you're taking that information and conducting a remediation response action. A lot of times it's still a lift and shift from one pane of glass to another, and that slows things down and also reduces the likelihood of the effectiveness of the remediation response action. I included this chart on the right from our 2023 Omdia Cybersecurity Decision Maker Survey, only to underscore that the severity of all these issues that we're talking about in TDIR is only increasing. You see the majority of our respondents there say the severity of the issues they're facing in the last 2 years is only increasing, which means that it's that much more important to get a handle on these issues, because if you miss one, if you miss a compromise, if you miss an intrusion, if you can't respond to an attacker fast enough, the consequences are that much larger. So let's talk about how you can kickstart TDIR innovation in your organization. First off, a few things here. One, I call this a director of TDIR innovation, and I think that's what organizations would do in a perfect world, but it doesn't have to be a director level. It doesn't have to be even a full-time role. What we're saying here is that ideally every security team should designate a part of a role, should be part of someone's job to go out there and gather insight and foster beneficial change. And we're saying not necessarily the CISO, because the CISO has a lot to do. It's better to have someone who's living in the SOC every day, who has fresh eyes on the problem and can really take a step back and say, okay, I understand our process. Let's figure out, how we can do it better, where the technology gaps are, etc. Next, reevaluate the existing TDIR architecture, process, skills, and training. So a lot of organizations really only revisit their approach from a technology standpoint when it's time to consider whether you're going to renew the core products you're using, or purchase a new one. And that's not a bad thing, but ultimately what we're saying is there needs to be a separate ongoing review cycle of not just technology, but again, the processes and what the people are doing on an ongoing basis, separate from the technology evaluation, so that you can understand holistically where the gaps are in your TDIR lifecycle. Identify outlier incidents. So some organizations do this, but it's not necessarily on a programmatic standpoint. But what we're saying is organizations should have, even informally, some kind of metrics-based system to identify the cases that required far more time than average to analyze and or remediate, and kind of group those together and do some data-driven analysis on those. How long did they take? Why did they take so long? What were the challenges there? Was it a skills gap? Was it a tooling issue? Was it just something brand new that required, bringing in a team and that took time, or external support? It can be any number of different things, but figuring that out so that if there is, you can identify trends and then say, okay, how can our program do a better job of taking these outliers and making them non-outliers so that we can handle these quickly, so that the real outliers will have the time and effort to spend on those. And then creating and maintaining a running list of emerging technologies and capabilities. So most organizations, again, are going to do this informally. But again, I would say, make some effort to try to formalize this process a little bit. It's the sort of thing where you can, when you're going to an industry conference, Black Hat USA is coming up soon. Walk the floor and just kind of go to those booths and say, okay, what's really interesting here? What stands out to me, as well as just in your ongoing day-to-day work. And make a running list of those things so that when you are in the process of identifying where your gaps are, either from people, process, technology, looking at those outlier events, you can start the process of matching potential technologies to those gaps, and it accelerates the effort to bring more innovation into your program. All right, so shifting gears here a little bit, I want to start by highlighting just how XDR is a really important facilitator in Omdia's view for TDIR innovation. So let's start by defining XDR. So there's a lot of confusion out there because there's a lot of mixed messaging in the market about what XDR is, and it's used in a lot of different ways. So Omdia believes that XDR is a distinct and different approach and solution set from the SIM-SOAR-based SOC architectures of old. So our definition is an enterprise-grade cybersecurity operations solution, platform, or service. XDR as a managed service is perfectly valid as well, for managing the TDIR lifecycle. And the key piece here is that it has direct control over one or more areas of the IT estate. So the endpoint, the network, the cloud, etc. And what that means is that it's directly collecting, the solution itself is directly collecting the telemetry from that IT estate region, conducting the investigation, the analysis, and initiating the remediation response action directly back to that IT estate region. So that's important because the SIM-SOAR based architectures of the past have always been and always will be ultimately reliant on third-party data. And that's a heavy lift because while it's necessary in a lot of use cases, there's a huge data architecture lift as far as bringing all that data together. What XDR does differently is it unifies that TDIR approach by streamlining the gathering of telemetry directly from those sources and then directly managing the remediation response to those IT estate regions. And that sets the stage for such a smoother process specifically for TDIR. Other things that really matter from an XDR standpoint, that guided analyst experience. Still so many cases out there where there's a TDIR swivel chair problem. You're going from solution to solution to solution for a single process. XDR helps so much at not only giving you that single pane of glass, but also providing that human-oriented but AI-assisted experience so that you're not kind of constantly going to a different place to do a different thing and find different information. It's a much smoother process start to finish. And to that end, that business process workflow streamlining not only benefits the analyst, but it also benefits a number of different personas, from threat hunters to CISOs and other stakeholders in the organization that want to have a view directly into the TDIR lifecycle. Okay, real quick view here. Won't spend a lot of time on this. This is a preview of our just about to publish Omdia Cybersecurity SecOps Market Tracker database for the first half of 2024, covering data through calendar year 2023. I want to show that even though we had a little bit of a slowdown in the XDR market last year due to a variety of different economic factors, we're still very bullish on XDR as a standalone market. We're predicting, significant growth. We see the market globally topping more than $1 billion in revenue this year, and then eventually growing over our 5-year forecast out to 2029, topping 2.5 billion. We tried Omdia. We're not going to put out, massive numbers that we can't justified, but we think this is a very realistic target for this market over the next 5 years. And I'm putting this here for you just to underscore XDR is a growth market, and we see it playing an increasingly large role in TDIR going forward. So with all that, let's kind of dig into XDR and innovation and really tying the differentiators provided by XDR to the opportunity to foster innovation in your TDIR lifecycle. So we're going to cover this from 4 different angles here. First, starting with detections, we covered this already, SIM-SOAR-based threat detection, very hard for a variety of different reasons. We talked about that data pipeline, to all the different pieces there, from acquiring, ingesting, processing, normalizing, categorizing, enriching, indexing data. Before you ever get to the point where you can start initiating a threat detection process, the data engineering piece is so heavy with SIM-SOAR that there are so many opportunities to mess that up. And if you don't get that right, you're not going to get detection right, and the whole process falls down. Now, XDR to us represents such a better approach because it manages that data lifecycle natively. It owns the relationship with one or more IT estate regions, be it the endpoint, the network, etc. It's designed to self-manage that data pipeline for you, especially comprehensive XDR, the all-in-one XDR solutions that cover the endpoint and the network and the cloud natively. That means your primary TDIR solution has all the data you need in a unified format, and it sets the stage for faster, more accurate detections. So from there, it's all about noise reduction and prioritization. XDR is purpose-built to correlate multiple related alerts so that you get fewer cases, less noise, and from there, it's easier to prioritize. And XDR does a really nice job because, again, it owns that data. It has it's all formatted for you, and it has a better native understanding of what's coming into the solution, that it's easier to stitch together those disparate but related incidents together to create a unified case and more easily and quickly understand what's actually happening in an incident. Next, integration. So Omdia believes the TDIR lifecycle has to learn, for long-term success, to really move the needle, TDIR has to learn from itself. You'll hear from Yale from Checkpoint shortly. This is a point that's they're particularly passionate about, and for good reason, because if you're still detecting the same threats from 2 or 3 years ago, you're doing it wrong, to be frank with you. And your solution needs to enable your life cycle to be learning and preventing more and more threats as you go along. Omdia is very much a believer in the integration of the TDIR lifecycle with both preventative capabilities, so the stuff that helps you stop the threats that are going to come at you, as well as what we call proactive security, which is closing the aperture, reducing the likelihood, reducing the attack surface that threat actors can go after, so fewer attacks come your way in the first place. XDR is perfectly positioned to provide that input back to those preventative and proactive capabilities through integration, so that your entire security architecture is ultimately benefiting from what you're learning through your TDIR lifecycle. Orchestration and automation. So XDR really, we see it kind of as 2 different types of orchestration when it comes to XDR. There's kind of pre-response and post-response orchestration. So we've had in the form of SOAR, the post, the response-centric orchestration for quite some time. XDR has taken pre-response orchestration to another level, because not only does it bring together those related events into a unified case for you, but it's also going to be able to recognize, it has, through the increasing use of machine learning and AI, the ability to recognize, what's happening in a case, how it looks, what the vulnerability is, what the threat actor is attempting to do, and apply orchestration actions to enrich the event or automatically, bring in certain stakeholders through notification. A lot of different capabilities that before were all manual tasks that analysts had to handle themselves. So to bring that pre-event and post-event orchestration together does so much to not only reduce the burden on incident analysts, but also just accelerate that TDIR process to get through a case and get to response that much faster. And then automation, still really important, but we see a lot of solutions out there put too heavy a focus on just jumping right into automation. And we know a lot of SOCs out there just aren't comfortable with that. You want to understand how you can take a more gradual approach so that you're comfortable with the automation actions that your TDIR solutions are taking on your behalf. XDR, again, because of the way it gathers information, because of the strong orchestration we talked about, it sets the stage for a crawl, walk, run approach to automation that enables organizations to bring in automation in the ways that they want at the pace that they want. And then finally, AI capabilities. So a quick aside here, Omdia has a little bit more of a cautious approach with AI than some organizations. Your mileage may vary. There are a lot of different AI capabilities out there that move the needle, but some less so. So we advise really digging into specific capabilities to understand how solutions are seeking to apply AI and add value and aid outcomes, because that's what really matters. AI is no good if it creates more noise or points you in the wrong direction. But XDR creates a fantastic opportunity to bring more AI capabilities into the TDIR lifecycle. Areas like gathering, connecting threat intelligence, suggesting next steps, or even just providing really clear, simple, plain text summaries of what's happening in an event that otherwise analysts would have to go figure out themselves, connecting those dots in ways that otherwise would be hard to see. The best AI wins are usually the smaller wins, specific use cases, going out and doing those virus total checks that otherwise would be manual. Things like that enable you just to get through laborious tasks more quickly. And XDR can deliver a lot of that for you. So last slide from me, what to watch going forward. As we're trying to leverage XDR as an innovation conduit for TDIR, we still are very much firm in our belief that XDR is a supplement or an alternative to a SIM or next-gen SIM-based TDIR approach, not a direct replacement just yet. We see the technology evolving pretty quickly, but generally speaking, if you're using a SIM today, you're not going to want to directly replace TDIR with an XDR, but you're going to want to closely look at the opportunity adding an XDR to your SOC architecture can benefit you for all the reasons that we've talked about. Lean toward what matters to your organization. There are a lot of different schools of thought on XDR, and many that believe that you can't have XDR without it being based on EDR. Omdia doesn't really necessarily believe that. We think there are a lot of different, approaches to develop a very beneficial XDR solution approach. And network and cloud-centric approaches are very valid. Obviously, you're going to hear from Checkpoint in a moment, and no one is as strong on the network side as they are. And to me, the network is ultimately always going to be the single source of truth. You're going to use a lot of endpoint data primarily, of course, just because so many incidents start or are partially derived from endpoint data. But having that network data too, so important. Recent SIM M&A, it's been pretty crazy lately. That we could do a whole webinar in itself on that. But needless to say, if you follow our research, there is a lot of volatility happening right now in the SIM SOAR space. That to me creates more opportunity for XDR because there's huge investments being made across the board in XDR solutions right now. It's where a lot of innovation is happening. They're worth a look if you're a little concerned about what's happening in SIM SOAR right now. Operationalization, easy for me to say, of event analysis. That's what we talked about early on. XDR really helps with that process gap between the investigation conclusion and then initiating remediation response. If your organization is struggling with that lift and shift approach to say, okay, here's what happened, we know what to do, now let's go do it, XDR is a really interesting approach to look at because it's one of the best opportunities out there to smooth out that gap. Threat intelligence. We're seeing a movement toward unified tip data architectures with kind of a cross-architecture curation approach. And a lot of the movement we see in the market recently, XDR, is adding that comprehensive threat intelligence data from a variety of sources and making it natively consumable as part of the threat detection element within XDR solutions. And then finally, upskilling. It's a passion of ours because we believe the best TDIR solutions are facilitating the learning and upskilling of the staff using them. Every organization is always going to have staffing challenges in cybersecurity, and the SOC in particular. We've heard it for years. We're going to continue hearing it for years. But if the solutions you're using can help do that by guiding the analysts through certain processes that they may not be familiar with, giving them those easy to understand summaries of events, suggesting next steps for them. So much of this is going to be where AI comes into play in the coming years. But again, XDR is really well positioned to help organizations if they're looking for a technology-driven approach to help upskill their analyst staff. So with that, I will pause here and say thank you. I'll be around. We'll do some Q&A in a little bit. But for now, I will hand off to my co-presenter today, Yael Cinnamon, the product manager for XDR, XPR, and Playbox at Checkpoint. Yael, take it away.
Perfect, Eric. Thank you so much. So I'll steer your share. And I hope you guys can see my screen very quickly. Can you?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, amazing. So guys, thank you for joining. Thank you for Eric for this very professional overview of the market itself and how we should go about it when we are searching and looking for such a solution. And actually at Checkpoint, we very much so took those insight and those observation as the direction, as the the theory of what we want to create. And as we came just a little bit late to that market, we had that opportunity to absorb what works best, what is missing, what our customers are still looking for. And this is how we came about to creating that product, Infinity XDR XPR. I'm Yael Cinnamon, of the product manager of this solution, and Playbox also, which is included within that solution. So you'll hear about two of these products and see how those functionalities and advantages that Eric talked about and how we decided to create them and give you that and give our customer that value. So XPR is part of the Infinity pillar in Checkpoint, which is all about all the services and products that aim to boost efficiency and boost the security among our customers. So those services and products integrate both for Checkpoint solution, but of course also the third-party solution. As mentioned before earlier in that conversation, even the integration is very important to us, and we make sure that that product with all its benefit can serve a wide audience of customers. XDR XPR specifically is really the comprehensive threat prevention platform that is integrated across the entire environment that gives collaborative security, collaborative prevention, using intelligent AI correlation. So we'll soon see how that goes. We call that solution, our XDR solution, XPR, just to emphasize the prevention. So our XDR is really focused on prevention. A lot of other organizations and vendor really focuses on detection. This is really the bread and butter of XDR in general. And we feel the same. We align with those capabilities. What at Checkpoint, it's very much all about the prevention, not what we can tell you, what we can actually do for you to mitigate risk in your environment at an automatic way or even as in a manual way, but gives you all the information to take smart decision and to understand what's going on. So the Infinity XDR XPR, it's all about automatic prevention responses. You don't have to activate anything, but you have that opportunity. You have that understanding about how we go about it, why we tell you to take this and or that actions to make sure that your organization is kept safe of all times, and also to stop attacks at the earliest stage possible, making sure they are not spreading on your environment more than they've been detected. And also it includes all those features that helps the analyst to do really vast investigation process in a very simple manner. So those analysts will no longer need to open 50 tabs on the Google or on the browser they're using, and just to do that research they need to understand who attacked them, what's the attack vector, how it looks like, what the industry has to say about that. It's all integrated into one platform that gives you all the needed information in intelligent enrichment, relying on the powerful Checkpoint research team that gives you all that information in consolidated platform. And it's also about all that correlation, right? The detection has to be related, or you know what? It's actually based on the entire environment. So it shouldn't be just on one solution or two solution. Whatever the analyst needs to see or happens in the environment, it should all be consolidated at once to have that big picture and to make sure that advanced attacks can be detected. And XDR is the only solution that gives you that ability. And of course, as it's an application on the SaaS, it always gives the customers an easy way to be onboarded and to get all these updated live as they do it. And just to give you the how we like to present XDR, just for the idea of the detection and the view of the entire environment in that aspect of automation. I always like to use that tale about the six blind men and the elephant. So the tale is about blind men touching a different part of an elephant, trying to guess what the object in front of them. So everyone has a different opinion because they're only touching one part of the elephant, right? But if those people have dared to talk among themselves, to share those insights, they probably were able to know it's an elephant that is in front of them. And this is exactly what the XDR do, but automatically using an advanced AI engine that helps them detect these. So in that real case that we've seen in a bank in Europe that we serve in XDR XPR, we've seen all those logs from the network and the endpoint solution he has. And those are not really interesting by themselves. Most are classified as benign or with low severity, but only by connecting those products into the XPR, the detection engine, and behavior analytics, we're able to correlate them all into detecting high severity breach that actually was active in 3 endpoints and 3 devices that were compromised in the environment. Of course, all the prevention action happened automatically according to the customer preference and configuration. So the idea is that that specific incident and what was cool could not have been detected, not automatically for sure, but even as an analyst, it's unreasonable to feel like anyone could do that by themselves, looking at 2 silos products. The XPR gives the ability to detect that automatically, and of course to take needed action for prevention. So just to understand how that works, Checkpoint is really proud of the way we bring our customers best security, and we like to demonstrate that approach with the 3Cs principle: the comprehensive correlation and consolidation. And Checkpoint and XDR XPR solution is really the best example of how we do that, because we give you comprehensive threat prevention across your entire estate. So that could be third-party solution, Checkpoint solution. We give you all consolidated in one pane of glass, and we correlate all the logs in a way that can really help connect the dots across the entire attack flow, detecting incidents that could not have been detected before, and also give you all that enriched information, understanding the root cause, how the attack was developed within the environment, when we detected it, how it's been resolved or should be resolved or already been resolved automatically by the powerful prevention. So just to take a look on the platform itself, you can see here all the connected product to it. Prevention status is always being reflected, and here you have a personalized newsfeed that being really powered by Checkpoint powerful research team that do all these vast research on all latest attack vectors, attack groups, and it's all being reflected to XDR users, but in a personalized way. So you get here all the publication that actually was at any kind related to your environment. So that could be your geographic location, your sector, but most likely even logs that were found related to whatever we searched on. So that could be logs related to attack vector or to any kind of group that we searched on, an attack group, and it would be all being very much connected to that. So you get that very unique intelligent enrichment. In terms of the integration, because Eric spoke so much about the importance of serving a lot of different security solutions to make sure we do get the user of XDR vast correlation ability. We are connecting and integrating to all of Checkpoint product, but also mainly third-party data sources of endpoint protection solution and firewalls by third-party data sources. So these are the logos that we offer connectivity to, and we keep adding more and more because we do believe that the XDR, XPR should cover the entire state of our customers to enable a better detection, but better yet, the prevention needed to make sure that the organization is secure and the analyst can really manage their environment from a single pane of glass. And for the correlation, it's all about the engine that works behind XDR, XPR. So the product itself, especially in related to Checkpoint products, it's actually they actually build with also the prevention in mind. So XDR is like the second layer of prevention, but adding to that AI-based engine, the enrichment we get from all the research we are conducting, the powerful threat cloud intelligence, which is with Checkpoint brains and what we are really all about in terms of enrichment of and understanding of indicators from what we see as a vendor that serves so many customers. And of course, the fact that we can learn the customer environment in order to detect anomalies and abnormal behavior and make sure that the UBA rules are really powerful to detect abnormal behavior and making sure we add that to the calculation, making sure we allow detection that could not have been able before the XDR, XPR. And what better detection brings you in XPR is better prevention, which is what we are all about. You heard before about the efficiency, or let's say the user experience that one should expect when he's using an XDR solution. And XPR is really a unique solution that offer a generative AI assistant, which is the AI co-pilot that's integrated within the Infinity XDR XPR, and it's now publicly available to all of the customers. And the idea of it, it's like another analyst within your SOC team that helps you not only investigate on general questions about attack vectors, about any kind of phenomena you are searching on. It's also helping you investigate your own logs, your own environment, understand better how to handle a certain incident. If you're an early analyst and don't know what exactly you should do to resolve that, to mitigate that, to further investigate that, he can give you the ability, all the information needed and all action that need to be taken. It can give you references to other places other than the product itself. And it's really like an additional analyst within your SOC team. And this is all about the user experience that you need to expect from an XDR solution. It also really generates an AI description of incidents, of the environment status. So the idea is to really understand better what's going on with the AI generative, like exactly like you're using ChatGPT, for example, while of course preserving privacy data and not worrying about that. AI, the XDR XPR is really making sure that once we are offering automatic response and making sure we allow the ability of the users to sit back and relax and making sure we are doing everything for them automatically, we also provide information that give clarity about the attack itself, all the assets that were involved, indicators that were detected, the mapping in MITRE techniques to give you a better understanding of the techniques that were involved. So the reflection is very clear, but also the investigation experience. So the feature itself that we hold within XDR XPR, it's a big hit among our customers just because it's not only include both external and internal sources like, the Wiz report on any kind of indicator you may search on, unique information from Checkpoint global sensors, all the mentioning on Twitter, on Google, whatever you search for. So it's all integrated into that platform. It also includes the integration with VirusTotal, which is a very needed tool to for analysts to use to understand better about any kind of indicator. And it gives you a very advanced feature and capability that are not exposed to anyone else other than this integration with VirusTotal. So you get all of that within the platform itself, giving you that simplicity and an advanced experience of investigation. And we talked about prevention. This leads me into the action that we're taking. So of course we have that dedicated actions specifically to each incident, but you also have the IOC management where you manage all your indicators from one place. And the unique part with the XPR IOC management is the fact that we allow the integration with third-party feeds. So I know a lot of customers are using police feeds or feeds that they've been purchasing to know about indicators they would like to be protected from even before they even had any kind of communication with the environment. And using an API to that management, you are no longer needing to manually add them to the environment. They could be added automatically always, and you know that you can manage everything from one place and to allow the prevention with XPR automatically to all connected products, and of course take those actions automatically or within that platform very easily. I just want to show you it, reflect you the powerful brain that works behind all those prevention action that can be taken, all the responses that can be taken from XDR XPR. It's being managed and conducted by Playblocks, which is integral part with XDR XPR, but also can be used as a separate product because it is the automatic respond and collaborative respond of Checkpoint. And the idea here is to make sure that we offer both the responsibility to be conducted as a customer wish, but also as reflected with out-of-the-box playbooks that really gives you the immediate response needed upon any kind of trigger and to take action on that platform or any kind of other platform, bringing both operational and, of course, security value to our customers. So just to give you an idea of how it works, once the any kind of security solution detected a real attack on your environment, that trigger Playblocks to take the needed action across all other solutions that are connected to the platform, but also making sure the analyst and the team is aligned and communicated with what happened and why, using the general IT management tools that you guys are using, but also making sure that if needed, a ServiceNow ticket is being open or a Jira. So just to make sure that all the processes are being automated and conducted in an automatic way that allow to streamline the processes that are now not so easy to have to take a place in a way that it doesn't ensure no mistakes, right? Because we are human. Here you have it all automated for you. So just to understand a few use cases of what you are seeing here in Playblocks. We've seen just a while ago how Playblocks was able to stop the web vulnerability exploit in one of our customers that is only connected with the gateway. So this is where we've seen an attacker that we didn't know it was an attacker at first, because he had all these communication attempt with the environment. And we've seen these logs. Some of them were accepted, so those were benign, but some were blocked. None was suspicious enough to be considered as an attack. But once that IP conducted an attack that was identified by the blade, IPS blade on the quantum gateway, that trigger Playblocks to actually block that IP immediately, not only in that gateway, but on all the other gateway around the world, all these other branches, immediately and at once. And what was cool is not only we informed about that prevention to the administrator using their Slack channel immediately, we also seen after the fact another attempt of that IP to communicate with other gateways that he has not been communicated before. All those attempts were dropped, of course, due to the successful prevention of Playblocks. So that was just one capability that Playblocks has. Here in the second environment, which is in the second environment, we've seen a connection with endpoint solution, which was a third-party endpoint solution, and gateway connected, and this is where Playblocks come into handy to prevent lateral movement. So the endpoint solution was successful in detecting malware on one device, and that compromised device was immediately quarantined by Playblocks on the gateway, preventing outgoing traffic. So what happened here is that the endpoint solution was unable to clean up that infected device completely. But the fact that that detection itself triggered Playblocks to block it on the gateway made sure that the lateral movement could not be conducted. And we've seen that infected device trying to communicate with 5 other devices within that environment. All of those attempts could not be happening because Playblocks took that extra step, that comprehensive prevention, really made sure that it cannot be done, and it was rightfully so, as we've seen of the logs. The last scenario, it's more of an operational example. This is a customer that was connected with IoT solution, and that detected a new device on the environment. That detection triggered Playblocks to assign that new device with the needed zero trust policy, and of course informing the admin about that. The idea here is to make sure very easily you can enable a automatic playbook. You can customize it to your environment. You can see the value very quickly and enjoy prevention in a way that not only gives you that immediately and very in a very high certainty. You're always being informed and aware of what's happening. All of these other IT management tools are being connected to what's needed, and you can revert the action right from that. It's very easy to manage it, to handle those incidents, not only from the platform itself, and it's very easy to use to go about and to deploy it. And of course, it's part of the XDR XPR. So that solution itself gives you, the XPR gives you those correlation, that threat hunting, the investigation tools, all that enrichment you need to allow yourself to have that, efficient in your workflow, and then the ability of that to be preventive, to give you playbooks that are out of the box, to give you the ability to customize that. The entire loop is being reflected with the routine one should have once you are looking for that type of XDR solution, as Eric so wonderfully explained at the beginning. So this is what we aim for. This is what we wanted when we created that platform. And this is why that collaboration and between us was very much embraced by us, just because we're seeing a lot of things eye to eye, and this is exactly how we wanted to go about and develop our solution. And I guess we did. So I'll be very happy to hear some questions and to see if there's any kind of of ways to help forward with that.
Thank you so much, Yael and Eric. Fascinating presentations and lots of questions obviously rolling in. So in the time we have left, we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. And if not, we'll get back to you personally after the session. We have a lot of questions coming in asking about these integrations, because Eric brought up the importance of having direct control over different solutions in your environment. And some specific questions, I guess, maybe you can just talk about it a bit more, Yael. Does the customer have to have their own CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender license and deployed, or is XDR XPR somehow just using the data feeds? That's one of the questions that came up. So can you explain how it works in customer environment and licensing?
Yes, of course. So the licensing is very much per the platform itself. So there's the prerequisite of any kind of data source you want to integrate into the XDR XPR. So the license itself, it's about the data ingestion, the analytics we are running on it, and of course, all the features and tools we are including with that, the ability to have the data retention within that XDR XPR. This is the specification of the license of XDR XPR, meaning that if you want to integrate Quantum Gateway or Palo Alto gateways or CrowdStrike endpoint, those licenses should be repurchased before integrating them into the XDR XPR.
Okay, perfect. So any customer with whatever they have deployed, whatever solutions they decide they want to, or decide they want to deploy, will be able to be connected.
If it's available within that portfolio of many third party, we are integrating it to the XDR XPR for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a common question coming up in a couple different places. And then a second question is about play blocks specifically. Can customers customize the playbooks to a particular, can they be customized to a particular customer or a particular business or type of business?
So few of the playbooks are already customized in a way that you can really play with the triggers and the different actions. So you can clone a certain playbook and then just to make sure you alter that in a way that makes more sense to your environment. But in 2024, this year, it's all about making that capability more elaborated, meaning that by the end of the year, we want that playbook to be really a drag and drop template that you can very easily choose the trigger or maybe even play with the confidence level of it to make sure to drive that needed action you wish for in your environment. And that's what's this year it's all about in that development. So more playbook out of the box, because users are really keen for that, because we give them this certainty of no false positive, right? It's automatic responses. You want to make sure that this is what you need, but also the ability to really customize that to your environment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Another question, the next one up is, can or how does XDR XPR work in conjunction and or replace current SecOps, SIEM, SOAR solutions or processes that clients may have in place today?
Great question. So currently we see customer mainly use it as a complementary product, meaning it has an API to make sure that you can really export all the XPR incident and data into your whatever you are using, either SIEM or SOAR, and it could really make sure that you are keep using those, but allowing yourself all the value of the correlated incidents and the enrichment of data that XDR can give you. So it's very accommodated to that flow. But since we also have the playblocks integrated to that, and with the XDR, we see some customer already using that exclusively. So you got that prioritization, you got that out of the box playbooks. That for some environment, this is enough exclusively. A lot of customers that are already very used to that current SecOps tools, which is the SIEM or the SOAR, they use those together.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like what you're saying also is that XDR includes playblocks automatically, but that you do have customers who are, if it suits them, they're able to just purchase and implement the playblocks automation.
Oh, yes, very true.
Okay, Mark, Eric, did you also want to have anything to say about that question about, does this replace SIEM SOAR for an organization? What are you seeing the clients that you're consulting with doing or handling?
No, it's very much in line with what Yael said, where today a lot of the use cases are supplementary, where organizations have existing SIEM-based SOC architectures, and the SIEM, of course, is the centerpiece of the TDIR lifecycle for all intents and purposes. But the SIEM, in most organizations, has additional use cases for visibility. Observability, IT ops, compliance, things like that. So you can't, in most organizations aren't going to just kind of do a rip and replace today, but they're looking for that better approach for TDIR specifically. So they implement XDR as a supplement to that, so they can directly, address TDIR on the areas where it matters, on the network, on the endpoint, increasingly in the cloud, increasingly bring in identity data, increasingly bring in email data. If you can do that process natively with XDR and bring in some SIEM data, but in other cases sort of circumvent the SIEM, in a lot of cases you're reducing the bottlenecks in your TDIR lifecycle. So I think it's a very valid approach, but it's certainly one of several. And I think increasingly over time we're going to see more and more of these independent XDR centric TDIR life cycles, where the XDR kind of takes that center place role in the SOC.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both very much. We've gone even a little over our time. It's been a very wonderful session. I want to thank everyone who joined and our two presenters, of course, and direct your attention to the attachments. There's a lot of good documentation there. And as Yael showed at the very end of her last slide, we are offering a 30-day free trial of XDR XPR. So you can reach out to us in any number of ways, also via the website, to set up an appointment and get started with that. And we'll be sending Eric's full report PDF in the next couple of days out by email. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.